Good day everyone, and welcome to the next in our series of Excel skills training videos. Today we are going to focus on pivot tables, by far one of the most valuable features within Excel. So what I've done, I have set up a fictitious data set, leather coat shoes, and this is an extract of sales, a table of sales. I have created about 100 lines of information. So you can see from this table there are various customers in various areas, and there are sales of different products in different months. We have quantities and we have values. So though this data set is 100 lines, in practice, in the practical and real world environment, it could range to hundreds of thousands of lines. So if you were asked to analyze sales in summary format, the pivot table is the ideal tool to accomplish this task. So simply highlight the data set, and I've left column F blank for a particular reason, and I will explain that to you shortly. And if you go to the Insert tab, you will see a pivot table option. And the definition easily arranges and summarizes complex data in a pivot table. So by summary, you can see exactly what the high level impact is of the numbers. So we click the pivot table tab. It indicates the range that we have selected. We have an option to insert the data, or the pivot table rather, into a new sheet or one of the existing sheets. But in this instance, we will opt to insert the data into a new sheet. So if we click OK, there's an error message that pops up. It says the pivot table field name is not valid. To create a pivot table report, you must use data that is organized as a list with labeled columns. Very important. So what it effectively is complaining about is column F. Column F has no header, and that is the issue, because the pivot table cannot resolve that column. It cannot pull it into its data structure. So if we take that out, we now have a data set with no spaces and all headers. And we try that again. New worksheet. It creates a pivot table, and the pivot table fields are available on the right hand side for selection. So quite simply, bearing in mind we could have thousands of lines of data, we can now utilize the pivot table to start summarizing the data. So firstly, what would we want to see in our rows? Practically, if we start with customer, that would be logical. And within all those 100 lines of information, there's effectively only 4 customers. If we go to the value field, typically numeric values go into this field. We can pull in the quantities, and it gives you a sum of quantity, and we can pull in the values, and it gives you a sum of the values. So imagine you had a report with 500,000 lines, and immediately in a pivot table you've got a summary of customers, quantities, and values. Further to that, we can sort the value column. If you right click, there's an option for sort, either smallest to largest or largest to smallest, and you can then see at a glance your number 1 ranking customers in terms of sales value. To this, we can add report filters. So we can pull in area into report filters, and immediately the filter option becomes available at the top of the pivot table. So if we drop that down, we will see all the various areas or regions that there are. So we can either select all, or by selecting the select multiple items tick box, it gives us an option to combine a certain filter view. So we could look at a single area, a region, or we could look at multiple, east and south. So just from this view, you can see that pivot tables actually hold a lot of value and can very quickly allow you to make sense of a very large set of data. You could have multiple rows of information. So if you wanted to see the monthly sales, you could pull in the months, and by customer it will basically give you a breakdown for each month. These fields can also be hidden. So if you right click and go to expand and collapse, and we want to collapse entire field, meaning under each customer the monthly selections will be collapsed. So you see the same information as we did previously, but there's a little plus sign next to the company indicating that there is a further drill down available. So if we click that plus, it gives us all the months of sales that are available. So we can then see how exactly is the 20,000 made up. So similarly, by dropping and dragging various fields into the analysis, for example product as well, we could then even see within January what were the products sold. And we can sort it and change the view to accommodate our needs with regards to what we want to see or what we want to present. In addition, you can also create custom fields within the pivot table. So if I wanted to view average sales value, I would go to Pivot Table Tools, Analyze, and there is a Fields Item and Sets column. Click on it and it gives you an option for calculated field. You can name the field. I will call it average sales value. In the formula block, delete the information, and we then pick the fields to calculate this average sales value column. So I want to see value divided by quantity, and I will add. So you now see your calculated field average sales value appears in the list of selectable fields, and you then have an average sales value for each customer. If you drill down, the same is applicable to the month's information. This type of analysis comes in very handy if you have a large range of products and you want to try and view the impact of mix, for instance, within the sales range. You can change the formatting. And the instant you select or click on the pivot table fields then become available. I hope you've enjoyed this basic introduction to pivot tables. We will be covering more detailed and advanced concepts shortly in subsequent videos. Thank you and goodbye.